Hello. It is Wednesday, and everybody knows what Wednesday means. It is the inner journey. I am Robert Morales, RCO Network, here with a very special co-host. She puts the V in Van Alstyne. Miss Mary Van Alstyne.
That was a new one. I like it.
Well, you do put the V in Van Alstyne.
I sure do. Yeah.
So we're here every Wednesday talking about emotions and the things we go through as people, business owners, entrepreneurs, everything else, but really to hone in on an understanding of this life that we live. And really the bridge that crosses, that we all cross is emotions. The thing that connects us all together.
Yes, the thing that makes us human.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing, the analogy I always give is we're all we're piano, like a keyboard. You know, we all have different experiences, but yet we all have the same emotions. Mm-hmm. You know, we all experience loss and love equally. And it could be a dog, it could be a parent, you know, but feeling the loss is sometimes just as equal. So that's what we're here to do.
Yes. Feel it together.
We're doing this together.
Yes.
So every week, like I said, we explore these emotions and things. And today, you know, I don't like that you're changing, Mary.
You don't?
No.
Oh, well, too bad, so sad.
So we're talking about change and what that means in our life, individually, as a community, and the things that we experience and everything else. And a change is pretty significant. How do you define change?
Ooh.
Miss Van Alstyne. Oh, did I?
Well,
Did I
just
stump
like
you?
we always do with the yeah. Let me look at the dictionary real quick.
We can pull it up too. If you
You could, and I was just thinking as you were talking about
want me to pull it up?
our little wordplay that we always do. And to me, when I think change, I typically think growth. So to me, they're very interchangeable.
Growth and change. Well, Webster's.
Growth and change. Change is something, I don't know, not remaining the same, growing, evolving into something more.
Well, let's see.
Altered or modified, replaced.
Make someone or something different, alter or modify. Both parties
Something-
voted against proposals to change the law.
The act or instance of making or becoming different, which is growth.
Yeah.
Or it's coins as opposed to paper currency. Not that kind of change?
No, not that kind of
That's
change.
going to be changing too as we slip into
Bitcoin?
Bitcoin
Are
and
you a Bitcoin fanatic?
Not a fanatic. I'm not a fanatic now.
No.
I mean, I see that we're definitely shifting into something and we're evolving.
Yeah.
And I definitely see that what do you call it? Cryptocurrency is definitely going to be a part of our life.
Is that scary to to get into something different or something new? Is it? So again, is it? What is it to you? What is the emotion you get when you feel that something's coming?
Well, you know, when something is, I mean, I think we all, we're creatures of comfort, right? We like things to stay the same. And a lot of the times that goes against our evolutionary
Programming
to thank you, brain fog.
That's what I do.
I'm still working with the brain fog here.
That's exactly
But
what I do.
evolutionary programming to evolve, right? So how could things stay the same and evolve? And it really depends. A lot of times when change or growth is happening, it is uncomfortable, feelings of uneasiness, feelings of, you know, kind of wondering why, right? Kind of a victim type mentality. Why is this happening to me? And also, on the other hand, there's excitement, anticipation. So I think, it depends on the change or the growth that's happening and how you decide to perceive these feelings that are coming up. Because I believe we have the ability to see a feeling of anxiousness as excitement if we choose, you know, and kind of reframe that so that we embrace things a little bit easier.
What's the last biggest change you've experienced that was really profound for you? Did I catch you off guard?
Dry January? No.
So part of our resolutions this year.
Very uncomfortable. Very.
So Mary has not been drinking all of January.
Well, okay, so I got a pass for a birthday party, but yeah, it was. But I had a few beers, and so it wasn't a big deal. But it's you know, the last big major change, I would say. You know, this could be considered change or evolution or growth, but remodeling my house, that was that created a lot of different feelings within me. It was the amount of money that I was spending in order to do it, and then the excitement of knowing that my environment was going to be something beautiful and inspiring to me, and the anticipation of like what that can create in my life, just being surrounded by an environment that's inspiring versus the environment that I was in. So there were a lot of different things changing. My bank account going down, my house looking better, and all the things that come with doing a remodel project. That was probably a pretty significant change that happened within the last year.
Did you ever have like that height growth chart for your kids, where you're like marking the side of the door, how tall they're getting and stuff? I did that one time, and with Olivia when she was like 3, and we at our very first house we had that little growth thing, and when you're getting ready to sell a house, you get paint and you kind of paint over it, and there was that little bit of hesitation as you're painting over it. You're gonna go and put the paint there, and you're like, that's kind of erasing the past and those experiences, and there's that stutter, there's not that like, oh, screw it, we got to sell this house. That stop, and it's like, oh shit, we're really leaving, we're really moving on from this house. And that was in itself kind of a pause, or at least a reflection for me too.
I did the exact same thing when I was painting over my son's little
growth chart.
Yeah, and I even thought, maybe I should grab a piece of paper and remark it on there, and I just sat and thought to myself, like, I've been all about clearing out and seeing the future and moving forward in my life, and that's something that I can love and embrace, and and I have the heights charted somewhere on a piece of paper, but not on the wall, and I was able to release it and move through that uncomfortable feeling or moment where I wanted to hang on to the past.
Yeah. So. That same feeling happens whenever I have a Bible, and you're throwing stuff away. You could throw like 50 books away, and then when you get a Bible in your hand, you're like, am I going to go to hell?
Hopefully you're donating them, not throwing them away.
Well, whatever I was doing to move them away from
Clear them out, yeah. Move them out, yeah.
Don't say what I did with it. But no, it's like that hesitation to like, I don't want to get rid of this. Yeah. It feels like sinful. I don't.
And it's just clinging. It's a clinging to the past. It's a clinging to what was. Yeah.
So as far as change goes, I mean, we all experience it. If you're living today, you're approximately 7 minutes older since you started the show. Can you believe that?
That's incredible. Yeah.
And so you either have listened to us and experienced change, or you're experiencing it right now, or there's something in your life that's happening. As far as change goes, what are the good sides about change in your experience, Ms. Van Alstyne?
Well, I think the good sides are that change means you're growing. Yep. No matter what the change is, if you choose to learn the lessons that there are to learn there, change is definitely growing and evolving. Yeah.
And I think so much of that is an internal process. As we go to school, when we go to primary school, secondary, then you go into graduate, all that stuff. There's that part of that process of learning and experiences that you take on, and for some reason there's emotionally. We don't necessarily change typically after a certain age. We're still emotional kind of children in a lot of ways.
Some people do, and that's why we're here talking about mindfulness, because when you are mindful, you can continue to grow and evolve, and even through the worst circumstances, like losing a partner, should you choose to take a different perspective on it, or look for the lessons in and look for what positive is coming out of it, then you absolutely have the ability to see it as a growth versus, I just lost something. Oh, it just was heartbreaking. And now my life is never going to be the same because things aren't the same anymore. There's an opportunity for you to excel through any circumstance that's thrown your way, should you choose to look at it in a different light.
Yeah, and really that choice, whether you look at it in one perspective or the other, that really dictates the feelings and everything else projecting forward. Mm-hmm. And I guess when I start with the good things about change, we're really talking about the bad stuff of change, the things that are uncomfortable, the things that we don't want to change. Right. And before we got on the show, the example I gave was my ex-wife. When we first met, she was very nurturing. She was very involved. We did a lot of things together. Then, 10, 12 years later, it was a very different relationship. She was very career minded. And part of me was angry with her. Mm-hmm. Part of me held on to that anger because she wasn't the person that I met 12 years ago, or maybe she was. And I failed to recognize that. And I failed to really embrace that. I just wanted to really only keep her in a certain box, and we tend to do that with everybody, our friends, family.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Has anybody ever given you shit about doing dry January besides me?
Well, definitely you. No.
A little bit. I was like,
no, not really. No, It's not like I was, in a heavy drinking crowd or anything. I just decided like I want to feel really good. I had been struggling with some, getting over sinus stuff, and I thought, well, I'm going to limit anything that's not, helping me get better, right? So no, I haven't. Although I have had friends that when I've gone through, because I do a lot of seminars, I do a lot of books, I do a lot of classes, retreats, things like that, and I have experienced and quite a few people that have not accepted the fact that I was growing and now wanted to live my life a certain way. And maybe it's a different way because I've changed, and now my values have changed, and, my friend circles have changed, and the things that I'm going for, the things I'm interested in have changed, and people get very uncomfortable with that. And so I have had a lot of people that I've been very uncomfortable.
Have you been in that circle where, like, before you had kids, you would kind of judge parents, and I'll admit I've done it too. Like before, having kids, you kind of judge parents like, I would never do that, or I can't believe they let them do it that way. But then, you have children, because you have a couple of children, and you kind of reflect back on all those kind of like pointing the finger, the blaming is like, and you reflect and you realize like, oh, now I understand a little bit more.
Exactly.
And you were part of a community as well as I have, where we're kind of chastising somebody for not doing the right thing for their kids or doing it the right way. Yeah. But it was only because our perspective was we didn't have children.
I wouldn't do it that way. I would do it better than that. Yeah.
Yeah. You try to control a screaming ass kid in a grocery store or when they want a toy, and you're like, you try the whole 1, 2, 3 thing.
Everything. I look at those parents now and I'm like, oh, I have so much compassion for you, because I always tell people, you're going to have it no matter what. You could say that wouldn't happen to you, but you're going to have that moment where you want to shrink and crawl under a rock, and you're carrying a screaming toddler out of a store or something, or a baby that just threw up all over the place. I've had it all. I've got 4 kids. I've been a mom since I was 18, so I've had all of that. I'm very humble, and no unturned stone there as far as like embarrassing experiences as a parent. But it does. Having experiences definitely shifts our perspective on other people that are in a similar experience. Yeah, we become more compassionate, and it's and do we have the ability to do that without going through those experiences? Do you think? I don't know. I think definitely we can.
It's hard. I think it's I should say hard. It's very much a challenge until you go through it. And that's what a lot of life is. And I tend to believe that the bad parts about change are other people in your life. The ones that judge you, that wouldn't do it your way, but they haven't been in that experience, and we hold on, just like my ex, where we hold on to people who we think they should be. We put them in this box because it's just easier that way.
So because that's how we know them, and that's how we expect, and that's how we expect them to show up in our life, and just like. Should we go into the crabs in the bucket? Because I don't think everybody knows that story.
The crabs in the bucket? Go for it.
Yeah, so the crabs in the bucket story. I don't know if you've done any personal growth or, I don't know, seminars or anything like that, but they tell a story about if you put a bunch of crabs inside of a bucket, they will just stay there. They will not try to climb out. If one tries to climb out, the other crabs pull it down, and they end up just staying inside the bucket like forever. They won't even try to attempt, eventually. I'm probably screwing the story up really bad. But then they they put one crab in a bucket, and somehow magically that crab kept going and going and going until it was able to get out of the bucket. And the whole like moral behind the whole story is that it's the crowd pulling that crab down because they don't want one like getting out or escaping or whatever, and then that eventually that crab will give up because it just becomes one of the herd, sort of. Well, I probably wrecked that.
Well, no, I get it.
Well, tell it if you know it better.
Probably because I've heard it before. But
I should have looked back at that story before I came on trying to talk about it. But essentially, it's. People don't want you growing and moving on. They want you to stay here with us, stay here with the crowd, and that we experience that so much in our lives with the people that surround us when we are doing something different or changing or something that is out of the norm for typical us.
It's that misery loves company situation. And I think the part to recognize is the people you surround yourself with categorize you too.
Yeah.
And they put you as the party animal or as the quiet one, or it's kind of funny when you have a nickname you reinforce what that nickname is based on how your crowd feels about you. And this is for entrepreneurs and everybody else out there, especially watching. Once you remove yourself from that society or that group and you put yourself in a different group, your personality, everything shifts and changes. Your perspective changes. And I think that's part of growth too.
Yeah.
So part of growth and changing is stepping away from what's comfortable.
Absolutely.
And stepping out of that box.
And being willing to step away from what's uncomfortable, and being willing to, if you want to achieve a certain thing, surround yourself by those people that are achieving that thing. You know, be willing to be the beginner and be willing to be the student. You know, that can be uncomfortable, and that's a part of change. And then this ties back into the fact that you are the sum of the 5 closest people in your life, you know. So who are you surrounding yourself with if what you say you want is over here? Are you going to get there from this comfortable spot where nothing is changing, you know?
Yeah, I would say if the 5 closest people to you are assholes, you're probably one. That's a blanket statement. So everybody's nice here. Everybody that comes here to the inner journey is ultimately nice. But that again, that's a recognition of where you're at in your place. And if you want to grow and if you want to push forward in life and the things that you want to do, it's about stepping out of that comfort zone. And I've experienced that personally with my own sister. You know, it's so funny. Me and my sister have lived parallel lives. And we graduated with the same degree. We've lived similar lives. She's still in social work. I'm not, you know, and I refuse to engage into that same pattern that she's been so comfortable with. You know, that whole blame and blow up and, you know, forgiveness without forgiving kind of thing. You know, you just swallow your pride and you're like, okay, well, we're just fighting again. Let's forget about it. Let's put it under the rug. But it never goes away. You know, she's still playing that game, and I don't want to engage with that. And I've broken free from that, but at the same time, it's kind of a loss too, because she's still playing those same patterns and the same games that we grew up with. And I wish she would see it. And I've dissociated from that because I don't want to be part of that emotional mess. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to continue that circle. That's that wheel that we were so used to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's painful, and I wish. There were so many events in my life that I wish I would have included my sister with, which was like looking for the engagement ring when I got married, going through and seeing what kind of flowers and things like for the wedding, you know, just certain things you want to do with your sister. I mean, there's a lot of things I do with my brother. The bachelor party was awesome. You know, I was so appreciative of the bachelor party.
I heard, yeah.
But when it came to like the female things, and I wish she was there. I reached out to my cousin and you know, Claudia, and it wasn't the same. I mean, she's very much like a sister to me, but it wasn't the same. So it's really the recognition that, again, the people around you do shape your perspective, and they do reinforce things that you probably may internally not agree with, but go with because you want to be part of this community, you want to be part of this crowd.
Yeah. And I think that that's something that's normal for that feeling to come up of missing of something that was in the past or that was familiar or comfortable, you know? Yeah. Like the moments where, and in those moments where you're, excuse me, when you're talking about missing her and wishing she was there to get the flowers, but then being able to accept that it wouldn't maybe be enjoyable for you in these current circumstances because of how much you've grown and changed, and being willing to go, I miss the idea of that.
Yeah, I miss the idea of my sister.
Yeah. I've had so many of the similar experiences, and that's why I always attempt not to look too back on the past. The minute that I notice that it's making me have feelings of uneasiness or, you know, it's like I only look in the rearview mirror to see how far I've come now, you know, and I'm focusing my life on looking out the windshield going forward. And then it's great to reminisce about those things. And I think the important thing is when we start to realize when those things are making us feel icky, reminiscing about them, because then we're going, okay, I maybe have a twisted perception of, because a lot of the times if you think about, like, it's like getting back together with an ex, right? Oh, am I going there?
Oh, you can.
I mean, a lot of us have done it, right? Yeah. And then when we're separated from them for however long we are, and we start toying about the idea of getting back together, what are we usually thinking when we're doing that? of all the great things that were happening in the beginning, or some of the great things that we missed about them. And it's
Pretty
like
much the
we're
sex
just
part.
we're just overlooking a lot of the reasons why we're
Being
not
truthful.
with them. Yeah. That could be it. I don't know. It wasn't that for me, but it was like, reminiscing about the good things and going, okay, well, if I just get back with them, then maybe things can go back to the way they were. And they can't, because we're growing and we're evolving. And then for some reason, our mind is just like blanking out all the bad stuff. And then reminding us that, we missed this person because of this. And so we get back together with them only to realize it hasn't changed. And we're never going to bring back the past of how things were, because we've grown, we've evolved. It cannot be the same.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that sense of comfort. For guys, I mean, it's just sex. Honestly, it's like a lot of it is like the feelings that you get, the closeness, the proximity. But I don't know. I know for females, I could imagine it'd be more the security part. That knowing that the person, despite them not being good for you,
I miss
it's more the emotion.
The cute little thing he used to do, or how he made me feel this way, or it's
which is all like the dating stuff. Right?
All the good experiences seem to be the ones that we remember.
Yeah, and we end up going back with somebody because we remember the good experiences, not so much the negative stuff, or we kind of forgive the negative stuff, and then when we're back to them, you're like, oh yeah, that's why we broke up.
Well, and another reason I went back to, and I'm thinking about a particular ex, is because I was afraid to go on my own, right?
Yeah,
and so it was comfortable, and the security part of just knowing that it was a familiar life, right? Versus being willing to go, no, I'm excited about what's coming. What I can create on my own.
Well, there is that sense of comfort in knowing, even though they're not good for you, knowing that how they're going to be. Like, hey, I know he's going to get home at 5, and he's going to be cranky. I already know that. I know he's going to want sex on Saturday. That's what So it's like knowing those patterns of familiarity.
Yeah.
Versus those patterns of unfamiliarity with somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
Which can be exciting, but then also very uncomfortable too.
Yeah, the unknown can be a beautiful place because you can make whatever situation or circumstance you want.
Yeah.
And we're just so afraid. We can get so afraid of the unknown. That's why the motto of my life lately has been to step confidently into the unknown.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the thing, as we wrap up in the last couple minutes here, the one thing you wanted that I wanted to bring up was what you said before the show started. Because I think when it comes to change, it's very uncomfortable on a couple different levels. It's very welcoming when it's individual, when it's me learning. I'm growing, and nobody seems to understand my growth. But then when we see other people do that, because we put them in that box of comfort, the familiarity, we don't want them to change.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them. So internally, it's like I want everything for me. Again, going back to those ideas of being selfish, to like I don't want anybody else to change because I already know this world, how it's shaped. I don't want this world to change, because I'm maneuvering based on my perception or based on my knowledge of everything else. Mm-hmm. And I don't like things changing on me when I already know how the things are going to go. But the thing that you suggested prior to the show is disrupting the pattern. Mm-hmm. So and that was very prominent what you said. So changing your habits, and we talked about like how my weight loss was to kind of minimize. So I used to get 2 pieces of chicken. And then I eventually got to 1.5, and then I eventually just used 1. And then I started doing smaller plates. So the pattern I had was like, okay, the go-to was like get 2 pieces. Mm-hmm. And then making those small changes over time, you really don't miss it.
Right. And you're disrupting your pattern. And also in disrupting your pattern too, for me, that meant noticing when I was having a freight train of really bad thoughts and doing something in that moment to disrupt that freight train of really bad thoughts. So for me, it would be, I don't know, if say we were a couple and you were going to do some growth program and I started having these thoughts about, well, what if this changes, or what if that changes, or what if he realizes we shouldn't be together, or what if all of a sudden he wants to stop, going out on Saturday nights and having drinks with me, or what, and I'd like these, I'm afraid of what him changing is going to change in my life, right? And when I noticed those kinds of thinking patterns, or, I used to suffer with a lot of depression when I would start noticing that freight train of beating myself up or talking really negative about myself, like getting up and doing jumping jacks. Like, what's going to change your state more than getting up and jumping and doing something physical, or going for a run, or listening to a different music? It's just like interrupting that freight train of thought. That is huge, because our thoughts are what create our reality, right? Yeah. Our thoughts are going to dictate everything we think, feel, and then therefore do. So if we can just stop that little pattern interrupt. That was a huge change in my life.
Well, I guess to kind of frame off of that a little bit, for me, it's just doing something new, doing something different. You know, one of the things I taught myself was to play guitar. One of the things I taught myself was to play piano.
Yeah.
And I'm not the best player whatsoever, but you know, when I'm in a funk and I need to pull it up, and it puts you in a different emotional framework. You know, singing a song or connecting with a song gets you out of that just whatever pattern that was holding you back before. Even if it was depression. So I mean, I get with that completely.
Yeah.
You know, and then you also mentioned remembering your why. How do you remember your why when you're in a state of just maybe vulnerability or just your
well, if it's something that you're looking to change yourself or you're changing, and you know, this is why we talked about our on the goal podcast, having a why, writing it out and making it a deep, like emotional, visceral why that you can connect to, and also keeping it in a place and reconnecting with it regularly. Yeah. Because that's going to help you remember it versus shoving it in a drawer. Yeah. But like when you start, you know, when you decide you're going to not drink, and then all of a sudden because of whatever XYZ reasons, then your friends start hounding you on Thursday night. And then, you know what I mean? Like, what's going to keep you going towards that change when we have this pulling to go to what's comfortable and normal? Well, first would be the pattern interrupt, right? Like maybe I'm going to go to the gym instead, or try a new workout class, or pick up a guitar and play. And then also another thing would be to just like reconnect with that why, reconnect with the reason why you're changing. You know, it could be any number of reasons to change. Like in my growth, I remember I went through a couple of years of really intense personal growth, like seminar after seminar, class after class. I didn't listen to music for like 2 years because I was listening to audiobooks in my car. And sometimes when I would get this pull to go back to the old me, I would have to really sit down and think about, why am I changing? Because I don't want to feel like shit all the time anymore, and I don't want to be depressed, and I don't want to be a victim in my life anymore, and all the reasons why I wanted that. And reconnecting with that kept me going, okay, now I don't feel so bad that this person doesn't like me anymore, and everybody says I'm different, and all the things that people do when they see you changing, you know. And so connecting to your why.
Yeah, and I want to offset with two things that came to mind too. You know, I think it's kind of, for some people, I think it would feel a little uncomfortable, weird, but treating your life like a business, you know, and
you do business like a relationship, like a business, life like a business.
Well, I keep going back to that because it makes sense to me. Well, at least me anyway. Creating that mission and vision statement. That mission statement is like, okay, this is in the immediate, this is the next 6 months, next year thing. And your vision statement is more of like the future, you know,
exactly.
Like how you're going to be from now. And whenever you're in that moment of turmoil or indecision, you look back at your mission statement, because that's really reflective of your purpose.
Yeah.
Right. This is who I want to be this year. This is who I want to be this month. Yeah. And it's almost like putting like a pin up of like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his peak up on your refrigerator because you're trying to lose weight. It's that vision, that mission that you're on, that you don't want to deviate from, because it. Again, I think everybody's experienced those low moments where you have to remind yourself in some way.
Yeah.
And if you see the words you wrote and you're like, okay, that is my purpose, I need to stick with that over and over again on your wall, wherever you need to put it, it reminds you to kind of get out of that state.
Right. It's so funny. I just got a glimpse into the personality styles and like how we both said connecting with your why. So the point is, do what works for you. We all are inspired in different ways. I didn't mean to shake the camera. I don't know if that showed on
You're a camera shaker.
I'm a hand talker. But do what works for you. Maybe it's not a picture. Maybe it's not a big fluffy vision. Maybe it is a vision statement, a business plan. Maybe if you're a list person, it's a list of health benefits that you're going to, you know, feel or create or experience. The words keep slipping. Remember that last time I'm searching for
dry January.
I said I'm searching for a word, and it came to me like 2 hours later, and I texted to you. But anyway,
we forgot again.
It's whatever works for you to connect you with the reason why you're doing the thing you're doing. Yeah.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're at the tail end. I want to thank Angela for making all the comments. Everything changes when we change. Everything changes when we change. Exercise is great for emotions because it produces endorphins, which are hormones of happiness.
Yes, they are.
I like that. Hormones of happiness.
Yes, they are.
So if you want to write any comments or questions, go ahead and put those in there. We get back every week. We talk about these things, talk about emotions and stuff. Mary.
Yes.
What did we learn?
What
today?
did we learn today?
What is our big takeaway? You have the floor.
I should always prepare for this one.
Oh, boy.
Well, that change is inevitable. We are creatures that are driven to evolve and change.
Yes.
So let go and accept that change is going to happen, and you have the ability to embrace it and make the best of it, or let it take you down and try to be the crab in the bucket. So we had some great tips. Stick to your why, and then what was the other one? Stick to your why and
disrupt the
pattern
pattern.
interrupt. Pattern interrupt anytime.
Disrupt the pattern.
Something disrupt the pattern interrupt. Tomato.
Content, happiness,
Whatever works for you, but just use these little tips, and slowly but surely change will be something that you welcome and get excited about.
Yeah, and I think the thing for me is don't hold anybody back if they're changing, because they may not be changing. You may be you changing. And at the end of it,
I think, yeah.
And having the reverence of and peace of mind, knowing that people aren't going to be the same. We shouldn't be stagnant anyway.
We shouldn't. That's boring. How boring is that?
Very. So I want to thank everybody for joining us again. If you have any
you.
comments or questions, go ahead and put those in the comment section. We're here every week talking about emotions. Miss Mary Van Elstein, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're a beauty, and you're a delight to have here in my heart and in my life.
All right. You're awesome.
We'll see you guys next week.